Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, staring at the blue planet that filled the viewing screen. After 6 months of travel through deep space, the horizon's edge had finally reached its destination. This was humanity's first real chance to join the galaxy's community of alien races. Jake felt the weight of that responsibility pressing down on his shoulders. The Valerian homeworld looked peaceful from orbit. White clouds swirled over blue oceans and green continents. Cities glowed like jewels across the night side of the planet. Jake had studied everything Earth's scientists knew about the Valerians, which was not much. They were one of the oldest races in the Galactic Council. They valued tradition and order above all else. Their society was run by women, and they had strict rules about almost everything. Commander Ryan Blake walked up beside Jake. Ryan had been his friend for 10 years, ever since they served together on a transport ship near Jupiter. "Nervous?" Ryan asked. Jake smiled. "Terrified. If we mess this up, Earth stays isolated for another century." "Then we better not mess up," Ryan said. The communication console beeped. Lieutenant Lisa Park turned in her chair. "Captain, we're being hailed by the surface. They're sending coordinates for landing." "Take us down," Jake ordered. The horizon's edge descended through the atmosphere. Jake watched the landscape grow larger. Mountains rose like teeth from the surface. Rivers cut silver paths through forests of purple and gold. The landing coordinates led them to a massive city built around a central tower that reached into the clouds. They landed in a plaza surrounded by buildings that looked like they were carved from single pieces of white stone. A crowd had gathered to watch the human ship arrive. Jake could see them through the windows. The Valerians were tall and slim, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the sunlight. Their eyes were large and dark. They wore flowing robes in shades of silver and blue. Jake put on his dress uniform and checked himself in the mirror. He looked presentable, at least by human standards. He had no idea if the Valerians would find humans attractive or disgusting. He tried not to think about it. The landing ramp lowered. Jake walked down with Ryan and Lisa following close behind. The crowd watched in silence. Jake felt like a specimen under a microscope. A group of Valerians approached. The one in front was clearly important. She wore robes of deep purple with silver thread woven through them. Her face was sharp and elegant. She moved with the grace of someone who had never doubted her place in the world. "I am Ambassador Lyra," she said in perfect English. "Welcome to Valar. The Council has been expecting you." Jake bowed, as Earth's diplomats had instructed. "Thank you, Ambassador. I'm Captain Jake Morrison. It's an honor to be here." Lyra studied him with dark eyes that gave nothing away. "Come, we have prepared quarters for you and your crew. There is much to discuss." The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of meetings and ceremonies. Jake learned that the Galactic Council had 12 major races and hundreds of minor ones. Each race had its own customs and rules. The Council made decisions by consensus, which meant everything took forever. Earth wanted to join, but first the Council had to decide if humans were civilized enough. That job fell to Lyra. She asked Jake endless questions about human history, culture, and technology. Some questions were easy. Others made Jake uncomfortable. She wanted to know about Earth's wars, its poverty, its crimes. She asked why humans killed each other over resources when the galaxy had plenty for everyone. Jake tried to be honest. "We're not perfect," he said during one long session. "We've made terrible mistakes, but we're learning. We're trying to be better." Lyra watched him carefully. Many races have said the same thing. Few actually change. Despite the difficult conversations, Jake found himself drawn to Lyra. She was intimidating, but she was also curious. She asked questions that showed she really wanted to understand humans, not just judge them. When Jake talked about Earth's oceans, her eyes lit up. When he described human music, she asked to hear examples. One evening, Lyra invited Jake to a private dinner in her quarters. It was less formal than their usual meetings. They ate strange foods that Jake could barely identify and drank a wine that tasted like flowers and starlight. "You're different from what I expected," Lyra said. "How so?" Jake asked. "The reports made humans sound aggressive and chaotic. You seem thoughtful, almost careful." Jake laughed. "You should meet some of the people I went to school with. They'd match your reports perfectly." "Do you regret leaving Earth?" Lyra asked. "Being so far from your home?" Jake considered the question. "Sometimes. But this is important. If we don't reach out to the galaxy, we'll always be alone." "Loneliness is something I understand," Lyra said quietly. She looked away, and Jake saw something in her face he had not seen before. Sadness, maybe, or longing. Before Jake could respond, the door opened. A young Valarian woman entered. She looked like Lyra but younger, with the same elegant features and dark eyes. "Mother, I apologize for interrupting," the young woman said. Then she saw Jake and stopped. She stared at him with open curiosity. "This is my daughter Kira," Lyra said. "She is a scientist studying xenobiology, the study of alien life," she added when she saw Jake's confused expression. "Specifically, I study human biology," Kira said, stepping closer. "Your species is fascinating. Your genetic structure is unlike anything we've seen before." Jake felt suddenly uncomfortable with how intensely Kira was looking at him. "Is that good or bad?" "Neither," Kira said. "Just different. I've been hoping to meet you, Captain. I have so many questions." Over the following days, Jake spent time with both Lyra and Kira. Lyra continued her formal evaluation, but their conversations grew more personal. She told Jake about Valarian history, about the long wars that had unified her people, about the strict laws that now governed their society. She spoke about the Genetic Purity Council, which controlled all reproduction on Valar. Every child was planned, every genetic combination approved. The idea of random reproduction horrified the Valarians. Kira, meanwhile, was endlessly curious about human biology. She asked Jake to participate in medical scans and tests. Nothing invasive, she promised. She just wanted to understand how humans worked. Jake agreed, partly because it seemed diplomatic and partly because he enjoyed talking with her. Kira was brilliant and funny. She made jokes about the Council's old traditions. She asked Jake about Earth's animals and plants and seemed amazed by how diverse life was on a single planet. One afternoon, Kira was conducting a demonstration for Jake and some Valarian students. She was showing them how human cells responded to different stimuli. Something went wrong with the equipment. Energy surged through the laboratory. Alarms blared. Jake rushed forward to help Kira shut down the machine. He touched a panel that was still active. Power shot through his body. He collapsed. When he woke up, both Lyra and Kira were leaning over him. Their hands were on his chest. He felt strange. His skin was burning, but not with pain. It was something else, something he could not name. "What happened?" Jake managed to ask. Lyra pulled her hands back quickly. Her face showed shock. "You triggered a bonding resonance. That should not be possible between species." Kira looked equally surprised. "His genetic markers are responding to us. This is unprecedented." Jake tried to sit up, but the burning sensation intensified. Lyra caught him. "Don't move. We need to stabilize you." What followed was a blur. Jake remembered Lyra and Kira working together, their hands moving over him, speaking in their own language. He felt connected to them somehow, as if invisible threads linked the three of them. It was intimate in a way that went beyond physical touch. Finally, the sensation faded. Jake could breathe normally again. He sat up slowly. Lyra and Kira looked at each other. Something unspoken passed between them. They looked worried. "What just happened?" Jake asked again. "Something that will change everything," Lyra said quietly. Jake Morrison had been back on Earth for 3 weeks when the message arrived. It came through secure diplomatic channels, encrypted with codes that only he and Ambassador Lyra knew. His hands shook as he decoded it. The words on the screen made no sense at first. Jake read them 3 times before their meaning sank in. Lyra was pregnant, so was Kira. Both pregnancies showed human genetic markers. The medical scans were attached to prove it. Jake sat down hard in his chair. This was impossible. Humans and Valarians were different species from different worlds. They should not be able to produce children together. No one in the galaxy had ever successfully bred across species lines. It was considered a fundamental law of biology. But somehow, it had happened. Jake immediately contacted Earth's government. Within hours, he was sitting in a conference room in Geneva with President Nicole Hayes and a dozen advisors. The room erupted in arguments the moment Jake explained the situation. "This is a disaster," said General Frank Cooper, head of Earth's defense forces. "The Valarians will think we did this deliberately. They'll see it as an attack." "Or an opportunity," said Dr. Alex Chen, Earth's chief science advisor. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "If humans can reproduce with Valarians, we might be able to reproduce with other species too. That makes us unique in the galaxy." "Unique or dangerous?" President Hayes asked. She looked tired. The stress of Earth's application to the Galactic Council had aged her. "How will other races react when they learn about this?" "Badly," Jake said quietly. "The Valarians have strict laws about genetic purity. They plan every birth, control every combination of genes. This breaks every rule they have." "What does Lyra want to do?" Dr. Chen asked. Jake pulled up the message again. "She and Kira want to keep the babies, but the Genetic Purity Council is demanding terminations. They want to arrest me for genetic contamination." The room fell silent. Finally, President Hayes spoke. "We need to send a formal apology. Offer reparations. Whatever it takes to prevent this from destroying our relationship with the Council." "No," Jake said. The word came out harder than he intended. Everyone looked at him. "I mean, we should apologize for the accident. But we can't let them force Lyra and Kira to end their pregnancies. These are living beings we're talking about. My children." General Cooper leaned forward. "Captain Morrison, your personal feelings cannot endanger Earth's future. If the Council turns against us because of this, we could face economic isolation or worse." "The General is right," President Hayes said gently. "Jake, I understand this is difficult, but the needs of billions of humans must come first." Jake stood up. "Then I resign my commission. I'm going back to Valar as a private citizen." "We'll arrest you if you try," General Cooper said. Dr. Chen held up a hand. "Wait. Everyone calm down." She turned to Jake. "What exactly happened in that laboratory? Lyra's message was vague." Jake explained the accident, the energy surge, the bonding resonance, the strange connection he had felt with both Lyra and Kira. Dr. Chen listened carefully, taking notes. "This was not random," she said when Jake finished. "Bonding resonances don't just happen. They're biological responses to compatible genetic patterns. If you triggered one with both Lyra and Kira, it means human DNA recognized their DNA as compatible. The question is why?" "Does it matter why?" General Cooper asked. "The damage is done." "It matters a great deal," Dr. Chen said. "If we can prove this was a natural biological response, not something Jake did deliberately, it might change how the Council sees this situation." President Hayes nodded slowly. "Research it, fast. Jake, you're not going anywhere until we understand what we're dealing with. That's an order." The next few days were chaos. Dr. Chen assembled a team of geneticists who worked around the clock. They studied Jake's DNA and compared it to every alien species Earth had encountered. The results shocked everyone. Humans possessed genetic markers that no other known species had. These markers acted like universal adapters, allowing human DNA to interface with alien genetic codes. It was as if humans had evolved to be compatible with life throughout the galaxy. "This is incredible," Dr. Chen said during a briefing. "Every other species is genetically locked. They can only breed within their own kind. But humans can potentially breed with any carbon-based life form. We're bridges between species." "How did this happen?" President Hayes asked. "Earth's environment," Dr. Chen explained. "Our planet is unusually diverse. Humans evolved alongside millions of other species. We developed genetic flexibility to survive in different climates and conditions. That flexibility extended beyond what we realized. We adapted to be universal." Jake listened to all this from the back of the room. It still felt unreal. He thought about Lyra and Kira dealing with this situation alone on Valar. He thought about the children growing inside them. His children. Meanwhile, the news leaked. Jake never found out how, but suddenly every news network on Earth was reporting the story. Headlines screamed about the pregnant aliens. Some people celebrated. Others panicked. Religious groups debated what this meant. Social media exploded with opinions. The Galactic Council found out within hours. Ambassador Lyra sent another message. The situation on Valar had deteriorated rapidly. The Genetic Purity Council had ordered her and Kira arrested. They were in hiding with the help of friends who disagreed with the Council's harsh response. But they could not hide forever. The Council had called an emergency session. Every race in the galaxy was sending representatives to Unity Prime, the neutral station where the Council met. They would vote on what to do about the humans and the hybrid pregnancies. Jake made his decision. He went to the spaceport where the Horizon's Edge was docked. His crew was there performing maintenance. Ryan Blake saw him coming and walked over. "I know that look," Ryan said. "You're about to do something stupid." "I need to go back to Valar," Jake said. "Lyra and Kira shouldn't face this alone. The President forbid you from leaving Earth." "I know." Ryan was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled. "Well, I always wanted to be a pirate. Who else are we bringing?" Within an hour, Jake had assembled a team. Ryan, Lisa Park, and 5 other crew members who volunteered to come. They loaded supplies onto the Horizon's Edge and prepared for departure. Earth's defense forces would try to stop them, but Jake was betting they would be too slow. He was right. By the time General Cooper realized what was happening, the Horizon's Edge was already clearing Earth's orbit. The general sent fighters to intercept them, but Jake had been a pilot before he became a captain. He outmaneuvered them and jumped to faster-than-light speed before they could catch him. The trip to Valar would take 2 months. Jake spent most of that time worrying. He watched the news feeds from Earth and the Council. The galaxy was dividing into factions. Some species supported Lyra and Kira's right to choose. Others demanded the pregnancies be terminated immediately. A few extremist groups were calling for humanity to be exterminated before they could contaminate the galaxy further. Ryan found Jake one night staring at a star map in the mess hall. "Having second thoughts?" "Constantly," Jake admitted. "I've started a war, Ryan. Because of me, the galaxy might tear itself apart." "You didn't start anything," Ryan said firmly. "You had an accident. What's happening now is everyone else's reaction to something they don't understand. That's not your fault. Tell that to the people who are going to die if this turns into a real war." Ryan sat down across from him. "You know what I think? I think the galaxy was already broken. All these species living next to each other but never really connecting. Never trusting each other enough to really be one community. Maybe this is the push they needed to either come together or admit they can't." Jake wanted to believe that, but he kept seeing Lyra's face in his mind. The worry in her eyes. She had broken every rule of her society because of him. Kira, too. They were paying the price for something none of them had chosen. When the Horizon's Edge finally reached Valerian space, they found a fleet waiting for them. 30 warships surrounded their ship. Jake received a transmission from the flagship. A Valerian officer appeared on screen. Her face was cold and angry. "Captain Morrison, you are under arrest for genetic crimes against the Valerian people. Surrender your ship immediately or we will open fire." Jake looked at Ryan. His friend shrugged. "Your call, Captain." Jake took a deep breath. He opened a channel to all the Valerian ships. "I'm here to face justice for my actions, but I want to see Ambassador Lyra and Kira first. I want to know they're safe." "They are prisoners awaiting trial," the officer said. "As you will be." "Then take me to them," Jake said. "I won't resist." The Valerian officer studied him. Finally, she nodded. "Very well. Prepare to be boarded." Jake turned to his crew. "Thank you all for coming this far. But from here, I go alone." "Like hell you do," Ryan said. Lisa and the others nodded in agreement. Jake felt a surge of gratitude. Whatever happened next, at least he would not face it alone. Unity Prime was the largest artificial structure Jake had ever seen. The station hung in neutral space between multiple star systems. It was shaped like a wheel with 12 spokes, each spoke representing one of the major council races. Ships from hundreds of worlds crowded the docking bays. Jake watched through the window of his cell as the Valerian transport approached. They had kept him separated from his crew during the journey. He did not know where Ryan and the others were. He did not know if Lyra and Kira were even on the station. The Valerian guards refused to answer his questions. The transport docked. Guards escorted Jake through corridors filled with aliens of every description. Crystalline beings that looked like walking diamonds, creatures that floated in tanks of liquid, insectoid races with multiple arms and compound eyes. They all stopped to stare at the human. Jake heard whispers in languages he could not understand. He caught a few words translated by his earpiece. Contaminator, genetic criminal, threat. He kept his head up and his face neutral. He would not give them the satisfaction of seeing his fear. The guards brought him to a massive chamber. The council hall was circular, with seating arranged in tiers that rose toward the ceiling. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the seats. At the center was a platform where Jake was made to stand. Bright lights shone down on him. He felt like an insect pinned to a board. A figure approached the platform. She was Valerian, older than Lyra, with white hair and eyes like chips of ice. She wore robes of pure white with symbols Jake did not recognize. "I am High Matriarch Sela," she announced. Her voice echoed through the chamber. "I speak for the Valerian people in this matter. Captain Morrison, you stand accused of genetic contamination. You have violated the most sacred laws of our people. How do you plead?" Jake looked around the chamber. He saw hatred on some faces, curiosity on others, fear on many. He took a breath and spoke clearly. "I plead not guilty. What happened was an accident. I never intended to harm anyone." Sela's expression did not change. "Intent is irrelevant. The contamination occurred. 2 members of our species now carry hybrid offspring. This threatens the purity of our genetic line and violates our most fundamental laws." "Then your laws are wrong," Jake said. The chamber erupted in noise. Aliens shouted in dozens of languages. Sela raised her hand for silence. "You dare to judge our laws?" she asked coldly. "I dare to say that life is more important than laws," Jake replied. "Lyra and Kira are pregnant with living beings, my children. Condemning them to death because they don't fit your idea of purity is murder." More shouting. Jake saw some aliens nodding in agreement. Others looked outraged. Sela waited for quiet. "The hybrid embryos are not true life," she said. "They are genetic mistakes. Removing them is no different than removing a cancer." "That's a lie," a voice called out. Jake turned and saw a section of seating where humans sat. Dr. Alex Chen stood up. She was part of Earth's delegation to the council. High Matriarch, with permission, I would like to present evidence. Sela looked annoyed, but nodded. Proceed. Dr. Chen walked to the center platform. She activated a holographic display. Images of DNA strands appeared in the air. The Galactic Council has based its understanding of genetics on the principle that species cannot interbreed. This has been true for every race encountered so far. But humans are different. She manipulated the display. Human DNA appeared next to Valarian DNA. Human genetic structure contains unique markers that allow for adaptive compatibility. When exposed to alien genetic material, human DNA can interface and combine in stable ways. This is not a flaw or an attack. It is simply how humans evolved. A crystalline being in the front row spoke. Its voice sounded like wind chimes. If humans can breed with Valarians, they can breed with any of us. They could overwhelm our genetic lines, replace us. Only if we choose to, Dr. Chen said firmly. Humans are not here to replace anyone. We're offering connection, the ability to bridge species in ways that were never possible before. Connection? Sela laughed bitterly. You mean contamination? If this is allowed to continue, there will be no pure races left in the galaxy. We will all become mongrels. An avian creature with bright blue feathers stood up. Its voice was musical. High Matriarch, your words reveal prejudice, not wisdom. The Skyborn people see this as an opportunity. If humans can help us understand genetics better, we should welcome them, not condemn them. The Delphari agree, said an aquatic being from a water-filled chamber. We have been studying human biology with their permission. The potential for medical advancement is enormous. The chamber divided into arguments. Species shouted at each other across the tiers. Jake watched the galaxy tearing itself apart over his mistake. He felt sick. Then a door opened. Guards brought in two figures wearing hoods. Jake's heart jumped. He knew those movements, Lyra and Kira. The guards removed their hoods. Both women looked thinner than Jake remembered. Tired, but their eyes were defiant. Lyra looked directly at Sela. High Matriarch, I claim the right to speak. You have no rights, Sela said coldly. You are a criminal awaiting judgment. I am a council ambassador, Lyra said. I have the right to address this body. You cannot take that from me without a vote. Sela looked like she wanted to argue, but other council members were nodding. She stepped back reluctantly. Speak then. Let the galaxy hear your defense of this abomination. Lyra walked to the center platform. She stood beside Jake. He wanted to touch her, to make sure she was real. She gave him a small smile, then turned to address the council. I stand before you pregnant with a child that should not exist according to our current understanding of biology. My daughter Kira carries another such child. High Matriarch Sela calls them abominations, genetic mistakes. But I have felt my child growing inside me. I have seen the medical scans. This is not a mistake. This is life. She paused, looking around the chamber. The Valarian people have spent millennia perfecting our genetic line. We have eliminated weakness and disease. We are proud of our purity, but that pride has made us rigid. We have forgotten that life adapts and changes. We have tried to control nature itself, and in doing so, we have stopped evolving. Evolution is chaos, Sela interrupted. We chose order because order is superior. Order is stagnation, Lyra countered. We have not produced a new genetic variation in 3,000 years. Our children are perfect copies of perfect copies, going back generations. We are strong, but brittle. One major disease could wipe us out because we have no genetic diversity left to adapt. Kira stepped forward. Mother is right. I have studied our medical records. Genetic diseases are increasing among our people. Fertility is declining. We are so pure that we are dying out slowly. The Council knows this, but does nothing because admitting it would mean admitting our laws are flawed. Sella's face turned dark. You speak treason. I speak truth, Kira said. And the evidence is in our medical databases for anyone brave enough to look. The hybrid children I and my mother carry have genetic diversity neither pure humans nor pure Valerians possess. They are healthier than any child born on our world in a century. The chamber erupted again. Jake watched representatives arguing with each other. He saw the Thessian delegation, the crystalline beings, standing up and walking out in protest. Several other species followed them. A guard rushed to the platform and whispered something to Sella. Her face went pale. She looked at Lyra with pure hatred. It seems your friends in the New Path movement have been busy. They have released classified medical data to the entire galaxy. Data that was sealed for security reasons. Data that proved our genetic stagnation, Lyra said. Data you hid because it contradicted your ideology. You have committed treason against your own people, Sella said. I have saved them, Lyra replied, by showing them the truth you tried to hide. Jake felt someone grab his arm. He turned and saw Ryan Blake had somehow gotten onto the platform. We need to go, now. What's happening? Jake asked. The Thessians just declared war on humanity, Ryan said urgently. Their fleet is mobilizing. Other species are taking sides. This whole place is about to explode. As if to prove his point, alarms started blaring throughout the station. The council chamber descended into chaos. Representatives were running for exits. Guards drew weapons but seemed unsure who to point them at. Sella reached for Lyra. You will pay for this betrayal. A Valerian woman in combat armor appeared from nowhere. She moved with deadly grace. She struck Sella across the face, sending the High Matriarch sprawling. Touch my sister and die, the woman said. Jake stared. The woman looked like Sella but younger and harder. Sister? I am Sarah, the woman said. Sella's younger sibling and her greatest shame. I lead the New Path. We're getting you all out of here. More armed Valerians appeared. They surrounded Jake, Lyra, and Kira. Move, Sarah ordered. They ran through corridors filled with panicking aliens. Explosions rocked the station. Jake realized ships were firing at each other in the docking bays. The galaxy was descending into war. They reached a small ship. Sarah pushed them aboard. Go to these coordinates. You'll be safe there. I have one more thing to do. What? Lyra asked. Sarah smiled grimly. I'm going to show the galaxy the biggest secret the Council has ever kept. The truth about where all of us really came from. Before anyone could ask what she meant, Sarah sealed the ship and launched them into space. Jake looked out the window and saw Unity Prime burning. The greatest symbol of galactic unity was tearing itself apart. Beside him, Lyra took his hand. Kira took his other hand. Together, they watched the galaxy burn. The safe house was a mining facility on an abandoned moon. It orbited a dead planet in a system no one visited anymore. Sarah's coordinates had led them here, to a place where the New Path had been hiding refugees for months. Jake stood in the observation room watching the galaxy tear itself apart through long-range sensors. The news feeds showed violence on dozens of worlds. The Thessians had attacked a human colony on Mars, 300 people dead. Admiral Kevin Torres, Earth's military commander, had responded by sending the entire human fleet into Thessian space. They had destroyed 2 military stations before the Thessians retreated. But the Thessians were not alone. 6 other species had joined them, forming the Isolationist Coalition. They declared that humanity was a genetic plague that had to be contained or eliminated. Their combined fleets numbered in the thousands. On the other side, the Skyborn and Delphari had declared their support for humanity. They formed the Progressive Alliance along with 8 other younger races. They argued that humans represented evolution, not contamination. Their fleets were mobilizing to defend human space. Caught in the middle were the traditionalists, 20 species who could not decide which side to support. They wanted peace but also wanted to maintain the old order. The Valarians were among them, paralyzed by internal conflict. Half the population supported High Matriarch Sella's call for genetic purity. The other half followed Sarah and the new path, demanding change. "It's getting worse," Lyra said quietly. She had entered the observation room without Jake noticing. Her pregnancy was showing now, 3 months along. She placed a hand on her stomach protectively. "I'm sorry," Jake said. It was all he could think to say. He had said it 100 times. It never felt like enough. Lyra moved beside him. "Stop apologizing. I made my own choices. So did Kira. We knew the risks." "Did you know it would lead to war?" "No," Lyra admitted. "But perhaps this war was always coming. The galaxy has lived with too many lies for too long. Your arrival simply forced us to face them." Ryan Blake entered carrying data tablets. "You need to see this. Sarah just broadcast something to the entire galaxy." He activated the main display. Sarah's face appeared. She was standing in what looked like an ancient library. Walls of crystalline storage devices surrounded her. "People of the galaxy," Sarah began, "for thousands of years, the Council has taught us that genetic purity is the foundation of civilized society. Each species evolves separately and must remain separate. To mix species is to destroy them. This is the core belief that governs us all." Sarah held up a crystalline data device. "But it is a lie. I am standing in the Archive of Origins, a facility so secret that most council members do not know it exists. It contains the genetic records of every species in the galaxy, the true records, and they tell a very different story." She inserted the device into a reader. Holographic images appeared around her, DNA strands from dozens of species. Every major race in the galaxy has mixed ancestry. The Valarians, so proud of our purity, are the result of 2 ancient species combining 5,000 years ago. The Thessians are a blend of 3 separate crystal-based life forms. The Delphari have genes from both aquatic and terrestrial ancestors. The images kept coming. Species after species revealed to have hybrid origins. The Council founders discovered this truth millennia ago. They decided to hide it because they feared it would cause chaos. They rewrote our histories. They created the myth of genetic purity to maintain control, and they have been enforcing that lie ever since. Sarah looked directly into the camera. Humans did not bring contamination to the galaxy. They brought truth. They showed us what we always were but forgot. We are all hybrids, all mixtures, all connected by ancient bonds we tried to erase. The only question now is whether we embrace that truth or destroy ourselves fighting it. The transmission ended. The observation room was silent. Finally, Ryan spoke. "That changes everything." "Does it?" Jake asked. "People believe what they want to believe. The isolationists will call it propaganda." "Some will," Lyra agreed. "But not all. Sarah has given the traditionalists a reason to join our side. If genetic purity is a myth, then there's no logical basis for their hesitation." She was right. Over the next few days, Jake watched the galactic alignment shift. 3 traditionalist species declared for the Progressive Alliance. 2 more withdrew their support from the isolationists. The Thessians found themselves increasingly isolated. But they did not surrender. Instead, they doubled down. Their leader, a being called the First Crystal, gave a speech declaring that even if purity was a myth, order was still preferable to chaos. The isolationists launched a major offensive against the skyborn homeworld. The battle lasted 3 days. Thousands died on both sides. The skyborn held their world, but at terrible cost. Their beautiful cloud cities were burning. Their people were dying. Admiral Torres wanted to retaliate. He proposed striking the Thessian homeworld directly. President Hayes refused, arguing it would only escalate the violence. The human fleet held position, defending Earth and its colonies but not going on the offensive. At the safe house, Jake tried to be useful. He helped repair equipment, organized supplies, did anything to keep his mind busy. But at night, he lay awake thinking about the war, the people dying because of him, the galaxy burning. Kira found him one night in the common room. She was 6 months pregnant now. Her child would be born soon. She sat down beside him. "You're torturing yourself," she said. "Shouldn't I be?" Jake asked. "This is my fault." "No," Kira said firmly. "This is the Council's fault. They built a society on lies. Eventually, lies collapse. We just happen to be the catalyst." "Tell that to the people dying." Kira was quiet for a moment. "My child kicks now. I can feel it moving inside me. It's the most amazing thing I've ever experienced. This life exists because you and I connected in a moment of accident and wonder. Whatever chaos followed, I cannot regret that this child exists. Can you?" Jake thought about that. Could he regret his children, even knowing the cost? "No," he admitted. "I can't." "Then stop trying to," Kira said gently. "We move forward. We find a way to end this war. We build something better from the ashes." A proximity alarm sounded. Ryan rushed into the room. "We've got ships approaching, a lot of them." They ran to the observation room. The sensors showed a fleet exiting faster than light travel near the moon. Jake's heart sank. If someone had found them, they were trapped. The safe house had no defenses, but the ships were not attacking. They took up positions around the moon. Defensive positions. Lisa Park's voice came through the communication system. "Captain Morrison, this is the Horizon's Edge. Sorry we're late, we brought friends." Jake stared at the screen. The Horizon's Edge was there along with 24 other ships, human vessels, skyborne cruisers, Delphari submarines, somehow adapted for space. Even a few Valerian ships with new path markings. "How did you find us?" Jake asked. "Sarah told us where you were," Lisa replied. "She asked us to protect you. Said you were important to ending this war." "I don't understand," Jake said. "How can I end anything?" "Maybe by showing the galaxy what's worth fighting for," Ryan's voice came through. He was on the Horizon's Edge. "Jake, you're not just the father of 2 hybrid children. You're a symbol. You represent everything this war is really about. Connection versus isolation. Change versus stagnation. Life versus law." "That's too much weight for one person," Jake said. "Maybe," Ryan agreed. "But you don't have to carry it alone." More ships arrived over the following hours. The fleet around the moon grew to over 100 vessels. Representatives from 16 different species came to the safe house. They wanted to meet Jake, Lyra, and Kira. They wanted to see the people at the center of the galactic storm. Jake spoke with them. He told the truth about what happened, the accident, the bonding, the pregnancies. He did not try to justify or excuse. He simply explained. And to his surprise, most of them understood. They saw him not as a monster, but as a person caught in circumstances beyond his control. A week later, Lyra went into labor. There were no proper medical facilities on the moon. The new path had brought a Valerian doctor, but she had never delivered a hybrid child before. No one had. Jake held Lyra's hand through 12 hours of labor. She did not scream or cry out. She faced the pain with the same dignity she faced everything else. But Jake saw the fear in her eyes. They did not know if the child would survive, if Lyra would survive. Finally, a baby's cry filled the room. The doctor held up a small, perfect child. "A daughter," she said with wonder in her voice. The baby had pale blue skin like her mother, but human features. Her eyes, when they opened, were dark like Valerian eyes, but shaped like human eyes. She was beautiful. A perfect blend of two species. Hope, Lyra whispered. Her name is Hope. Jake held his daughter for the first time. She was so small and fragile, but she was alive. She was real. She was proof that connection was possible. 2 weeks later, Kira gave birth to a son. He had more human features than his cousin, but the same blend of characteristics. Kira named him Bridge. The news of the successful births spread through the galaxy. Jake recorded a message holding Hope in his arms. "This is my daughter," he said simply. "She is human and Valerian. She is proof that we are not as different as we thought. She is proof that life finds a way. She is hope for a different kind of galaxy. One where we connect instead of divide, where we embrace change instead of fear it. This war can end, but only if we choose to end it. Only if we choose life over death, connection over isolation, love over fear." He sent the message to every news network in the galaxy. Within hours, it had been viewed billions of times. The response was overwhelming. Some called him a hero, others called him a deceiver. But many, so many, simply called him a father. And that, Jake realized, was what he was. A father trying to protect his children and build a world where they could live in peace. The message changed everything. Not overnight, not magically, but slowly, steadily, it shifted the momentum of the war. 3 more traditionalist species declared for the Progressive Alliance. The Thessian coalition began to fracture as 2-member species withdrew. The first crystal gave increasingly desperate speeches, but fewer people were listening. The images of Hope and Bridge, 2 innocent children caught in a war they did not create, had touched something in the galaxy's collective heart. But the first crystal was not ready to surrender. He ordered one final, massive assault. The target was Earth itself. If the isolationists could destroy humanity's homeworld, they could end the hybrid threat forever and restore the old order. Admiral Torres detected the fleet assembling in deep space. 3,000 isolationist warships, the largest force ever gathered in galactic history. They would reach Earth in 5 days. Earth's defenses could not stop that many ships. The planet would burn. Jake was on the moon when he heard the news. He stood in the observation room holding Hope while Kira nursed Bridge nearby. Lyra entered looking pale. "The Council has called an emergency session on Unity Prime," she said. "They're trying to broker a ceasefire before the assault begins, but the Thessians are demanding the hybrid children be surrendered and terminated as condition for peace." Jake held his daughter closer. "That will never happen." "Then Earth dies," Lyra said quietly. "Jake, you have to understand. The Council is desperate. They'll sacrifice anything to end this war, including Hope and Bridge, including us." "What do you want to do?" Jake asked. Lyra met his eyes. "I want to fight. I want to show them that some things are worth dying for." Kira stood up, holding Bridge. "Mother is right. We run, we hide, but that just delays the inevitable. We need to make our stand. Show the galaxy we won't let fear win." Jake looked at his children. Hope had fallen asleep in his arms. Bridge was watching him with curious eyes. They were so small. So innocent. The galaxy wanted them dead for the crime of existing. "Then we go to Unity Prime," Jake said. "We address the Council one last time. If they choose war, at least we'll know we tried everything for peace." They contacted the fleet protecting the moon. Ryan was the first to volunteer to escort them. The Skyborn contributed a dozen ships. The Delphari sent their fastest vessels. Even some Valerian ships from the new path joined. They would have an escort of 50 ships flying straight into the heart of galactic power. The journey to Unity Prime took 3 days. Jake spent the time preparing what he would say. But words felt inadequate. How do you convince an entire galaxy to choose change over comfort? How do you make them see past fear? Unity Prime had been partially repaired since the riots, but scars remained. Burn marks on the walls, sections still exposed to space. The station was a monument to how close the galaxy had come to complete collapse. The council hall was full when Jake arrived. Every species had sent representatives, but the atmosphere was different from last time. Less angry, more tired. The galaxy was exhausted by war. Everyone wanted it to end, they just could not agree on how. High Matriarch Sella was there, though she had been stripped of most of her power. Sarah stood opposite her, now leading the Valarian delegation. The Thessian delegation was led by the first crystal himself, a being of pure crystalline structure that reflected light in painful ways. Jake walked to the center platform. Lyra and Kira walked with him. They each carried a child. Hope and Bridge looked around at the assembled aliens with innocent curiosity. The first crystal spoke first. His voice was like glass breaking. "You dare bring those abominations here? Into this sacred hall?" "They're children," Jake said simply. "They're 3 weeks old. They eat and sleep and cry like any children. They're not abominations. They're life." "They're violations of natural law," the first crystal insisted. "Humanity must be contained before they contaminate the entire galaxy. We offer one final chance for peace. Surrender the hybrid children and submit to genetic quarantine. Your species will be isolated to your home system. You'll never be allowed to leave, but you'll live." "That's not peace," Jake said. "That's prison. You're asking us to choose between our children's lives and our freedom. That's not a choice any parent can make." "Then you choose war," the first crystal said. "In 4 days, our fleet will reach Earth. Your planet will burn. Every human will die, all because you refuse to accept the natural order." Jake felt rage rising in his chest, but before he could speak, Lyra stepped forward. "Natural order? You want to talk about natural order? Let me tell you what's natural. Change, adaptation, evolution. Life doesn't stand still. It moves, it grows, it connects. Your precious order is death, stagnation, an illusion you've maintained through fear and lies." "We maintained civilization," the first crystal replied. "We gave the galaxy peace for 10,000 years, until humans arrived with their chaos. Your peace was built on genetic manipulation and historical revisionism," Sarah called out from the Valarian section. "You rewrote our origins to maintain control. You told us we were pure when we were always mixed. You're not defending order. You're defending your power." The chamber erupted in arguments again, but this time, Jake noticed something different. The traditionalists were not silent. They were arguing among themselves. Some were nodding at Sarah's words. Others looked uncertain. A delegate from the Aquarian people stood up. She was part of the traditionalist faction. "The first crystal speaks of natural law. But what law is more natural than life protecting life? Parents protecting children? I look at these hybrid infants and see innocence. Not threat, not contamination, just children who deserve a chance to live." "As do we," added a delegate from the Luminous Ones, another traditionalist species. "The isolationist assault on Earth will kill billions. How is that preferable to accepting 2 children who have done no harm?" More traditionalists spoke up. The tide was turning. Jake could see it. The first crystal could see it too. He began to glow brighter, a sign of agitation in Thessian physiology. "You're all fools," the first crystal said. "You cannot see the threat because you're blinded by sentiment. These children are just the beginning. If humans are allowed to breed with other species, in 1,000 years there will be no pure races left. Everything we are will be diluted, lost, forgotten." "Maybe that's not such a bad thing," said Cloud Soarer Prime, leader of the Skyborn delegation. "We've spent 10,000 years as separate species living side by side but never truly together, never really understanding each other. Perhaps it's time we became something new. Something connected." "That's genocide," the first crystal said. "The erasure of everything we are." "That's evolution," Cloud Soarer Prime replied. "And we can either embrace it or die fighting it. I know which choice I'm making." The Skyborn delegation stood up as one. The Skyborn people vote to accept the hybrid children and welcome humanity fully into the Galactic Council. We propose the Genetic Freedom Accords, allowing voluntary genetic cooperation between willing species while protecting those who wish to maintain traditional reproduction methods. The Delphari delegation stood next. The Delphari second the motion. One by one, the Progressive Alliance species stood and voiced support. Then something remarkable happened. The Aquarian delegate stood. The Aquarian people support the motion. 3 more traditionalist species followed. Jake watched the vote count rising on the displays. They needed 2/3 of council species to pass the motion. The number climbed. 60%, 65%. It was going to be close. The first crystal saw it too. He began to glow even brighter. If this motion passes, the Thessian Concordance withdraws from the Galactic Council. We will not be part of this contamination, and our fleet will still attack Earth. You cannot stop us. Actually, we can, said a new voice. Admiral Torres walked into the chamber. He was accompanied by President Hayes and Dr. Chen. The first crystal is right that Earth's defenses alone cannot stop 3,000 ships. But Earth is not alone. The Progressive Alliance has pledged their fleets to defend our homeworld. We'll have 4,000 ships waiting when the isolationists arrive, and we will win. You're bluffing, the first crystal said, but Jake heard uncertainty in his voice. Try us, Admiral Torres said coldly. Come to Earth. See what happens when the galaxy stands together. The vote count hit 67%. The motion passed. The chamber erupted in cheers from some sections and angry shouting from others. But it was done. The Genetic Freedom Accords were now galactic law. The first crystal shattered. Literally. His crystalline body broke apart, pieces scattering across the floor. It was a Thessian expression of absolute rage and defeat. The other Thessian delegates quickly gathered the pieces and carried them out. The remaining isolationist species followed, but Jake barely noticed. He was too busy holding hope while Lyra cried tears of relief on his shoulder. Kira was hugging her son and laughing. They had won, not just the vote. They had won the right for their children to exist. 6 months later, Jake stood in a new building on Unity Prime. The Interspecies Cultural Center had been constructed in record time. It was designed by architects from 12 different species, each contributing their unique style. The result was chaotic, but beautiful, like the galaxy itself. Today was the opening ceremony. Representatives from 90 species had come. The Thessians had not, of course. They had withdrawn to their home system and sealed their borders. A few other isolationist species had done the same. But most of the galaxy had chosen connection over isolation. President Hayes gave a speech about unity and cooperation. Cloud Soarer Prime talked about the courage to embrace change. But the moment everyone was waiting for came when Jake, Lyra, and Kira walked onto the stage, each holding a child. Hope had grown. She was crawling now, curious about everything. Bridge was smaller, but already showing signs of his father's determination. The 2 children looked out at the assembled aliens with wide eyes. These are our children, Jake said to the crowd. Hope and Bridge, human and Valerian, neither and both. They represent a new possibility for the galaxy, not the replacement of what came before, but the addition of something new. We're not asking anyone to abandon their traditions or their identities. We're simply offering a choice. Connection, understanding, love that crosses species boundaries. He paused, looking down at Hope. My daughter will grow up in a galaxy that almost destroyed itself over fear. But she'll also grow up in a galaxy that chose hope instead, that chose to believe in possibility. Whatever challenges lie ahead, she won't face them alone. None of us will, because we've learned something important. We're stronger together than apart, more creative, more compassionate, more alive. The crowd erupted in applause. It was not universal. Jake saw some delegates sitting with arms crossed, faces skeptical. Change would not come easily or completely. There would be more arguments, more conflicts, but the direction was set. After the ceremony, Jake found a quiet corner. Ryan found him there. "How does it feel to be the most famous human in the galaxy?" Jake laughed. "Terrible. I just wanted to explore space and meet aliens. I didn't sign up to be a symbol." "Too late now," Ryan said with a grin. "You're stuck being inspirational." They watched through a window as species from across the galaxy mingled below. Humans talking with Skyborn, Delphari exchanging research with Valerian scientists. Even some former isolationist species had sent observers, curious despite themselves. "Do you think it'll last?" Jake asked. "This peace we've built?" Ryan shrugged. "Does it matter? We did what we had to do. We protected our people. We gave Hope and Bridge a chance at life. Whatever comes next, that's for them to figure out." Jake nodded. He looked at his daughter playing with Kira's son in a nearby room. They were surrounded by children of a dozen different species, already making friends, already building connections that would define their generation. Maybe Ryan was right. Jake's part in this story was ending. But Hope's story, Bridge's story, they were just beginning. And it would be a story shaped not by fear and division, but by curiosity and connection. The galaxy had been thrown into chaos by one human, getting 2 aliens pregnant. But from that chaos had emerged something beautiful, something worth fighting for. A new kind of galaxy where the distances between species were measured not in light years, but in willingness to understand, to connect, to love. Jake Morrison had come to the stars looking for adventure. What he found was family. And in finding family, he had helped the galaxy find itself. The future was uncertain. It always was. But as Jake watched his daughter laugh while playing with alien children, he felt something he had not felt in a long time. Peace.